Sir, with all due respect, you just lied, and I'm not going to let you get away with it." The words cut through the air like a lightning strike. The entire room froze. For a brief, heavy moment, no one dared breathe. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of tension, every twitch on the witness's face. The nation was watching, and Jasmine Crockett had just declared war. Across the table, the MAGA eye-line witness shifted uncomfortably, his confident smirk fading into a tight, nervous grin. The hearing room, packed with reporters, staffers, and restless lawmakers, had transformed into a battleground, and everyone knew it. This wasn't just another Washington argument. This was different. You could hear the murmurs ripple across the chamber, whispers laced with shock and anticipation. Social media was already on fire. Millions of viewers were glued to their screens, live-stream chats exploding in real time. Did she just call him out like that? This is about to get brutal. Jasmine's not playing games today. But inside that hearing room, there was no time to refresh Twitter. There was only silence, tension, and the faint hum of microphones recording every syllable that followed. Jasmine leaned forward, her eyes locked on the witness, her voice steady but razor-sharp. There was no yelling, no chaos, just precision. A slow dismantling was underway, and the witness didn't even realize the trap had been set. Every second felt longer than the last. Each pause stretched like an eternity, forcing everyone in the room and everyone watching across the country to hang on to every word. And yet, we were still only scratching the surface. Because this moment, this viral explosion, didn't come out of nowhere. The stakes were bigger than one heated exchange, bigger than one clash of personalities. Behind the cameras, behind the headlines, there was a story of arrogance, of lies, and of one congresswoman who decided she'd had enough. But what led to this viral showdown wasn't just politics. It was personal. And what happened next left the entire country in disbelief. Just hours before the explosive moment, the atmosphere in Washington was already electric. This wasn't just another congressional hearing. This was a showdown that would test the boundaries of truth, power, and credibility in America. On one side, Democratic lawmakers fought to expose deep-rooted misinformation threatening the very foundation of public trust. On the other, MAGA allies lined up to defend their witness, a man whose entire testimony was built on carefully crafted narratives designed to sway millions watching at home. The stakes were high. The hearing wasn't about policy nuances or bureaucratic fine print. It was about something bigger, the credibility of Congress, the role of truth in democracy, and whether power could still be challenged when wielded recklessly. This wasn't left versus right. This was truth versus manipulation. And at the center of it all stood Jasmine Crockett, prepared to defend both. The MAGA witness, a seasoned political operative, had walked into the room with unmatched confidence. He had done the talk show circuit. He'd been on podcasts, primetime TV spots, and headlines, repeating his claims until they echoed across conservative media. He thought today would be no different. Another stage, another performance, another chance to weaponize half-truths and misinformation. But this hearing wasn't like the others. The public sensed it too. Outside the chamber, protesters gathered, holding signs demanding accountability. Inside, reporters filled every available seat, their fingers poised above keyboards. On social media, hashtags related to the hearing were already trending hours before it began. Hashtag accountability now, hashtag Crockett vs. MAGA, and simply hashtag the showdown ... Partisan tension reached a fever pitch. Progressive communities rallied behind Jasmine, praising her sharp questioning style and fearless reputation. MAGA loyalists, meanwhile, framed their witness as a hero standing up against what they called a witch hunt, and then the cameras went live. From the very first exchange, you could feel the storm brewing. The MAGA witness leaned back in his chair, projecting arrogance, acting as though the truth bent to his will. Each time he repeated a misleading statement, a quiet frustration began to spread across the committee table. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Jasmine sat still, silent, listening, waiting. What no one realized was just how prepared she was. She hadn't come armed with talking points. She came armed with receipts, facts, dates, contradictions buried in testimony, and evidence that cut through the noise. While others in the room clashed and postured, Jasmine was studying, dissecting, and setting up the moment that would soon erupt across every social media feed in America. By the time the witness leaned forward to deliver one of his boldest claims, the trap had already been set. The tension thickened, breaths shortened, and every camera in the room locked onto the two of them, the rising star from Texas and the MAGA operative who thought he couldn't be touched. But if you thought this was just another DC shouting match, Jasmine Crockett was about to change everything. The MAGA witness had spent months carefully crafting his narrative. To his supporters, he was a warrior for truth, a man unafraid to call out corruption in Washington. To his critics, he was something else entirely, a manipulator, a performer, a master at bending facts until they no longer resembled reality. From the moment he sat down before the committee, his confidence was undeniable. Shoulders squared, chin lifted, his opening statement was smooth, deliberate, and dripping with false certainty. Every sentence carried the weight of practiced delivery, like someone who had rehearsed in front of a mirror 1,000 times. He declared without hesitation that the investigation was a politically motivated witch hunt. He claimed he possessed undeniable evidence proving widespread misconduct, yet offered nothing verifiable. He painted himself as a victim targeted by radical Democrats simply because he dared to speak the truth. And he knew his audience, right-wing networks, were already amplifying his talking points in real time, framing him as a martyr for their movement. But beneath the performance, the holes in his story were glaring, at least to anyone willing to look closely. Documents contradicted his claims. Witness testimonies clashed with his narrative. Even previous interviews he'd given told a different story. Still, he pressed forward, wearing his arrogance like armor. He lied, he doubled down, and he thought no one would challenge him. Social media erupted before Jasmine even spoke a word. Twitter timelines flooded with live fact checks, threads debunking his statements point by point. Here we go again. Another mega operative rewriting reality in real time? Receipts don't lie. But this guy sure does. Somebody get Jasmine a mic already. Every repetition of his talking points built a rhythm of frustration in the hearing room and across the country. He lied and people knew it. He doubled down and anger grew. Each smug grin, each dismissive shrug felt like a slap to those watching who cared about truth and accountability. But the witness wasn't worried. He had survived hearings before. He had stared down tough questions, danced around facts, and come out unscathed. To him, this was just another stage, another chance to grandstand, to deliver sound bites for his base, to reinforce the narrative he had built. What he didn't realize was that today wasn't like the others. This wasn't a friendly forum. This wasn't a primetime interview where he controlled the questions. This was a congressional hearing, under oath, under scrutiny, and under the watchful eye of someone who had done her homework. And as his testimony dragged on, more cracks began to form. Every overconfident statement, every sweeping accusation without proof, became another thread Jasmine quietly tugged at from her seat across the table. She listened, pen tapping softly, her notes organized, her strategy unfolding. He thought he was untouchable. He thought no one would connect the dots. He thought no one would dare confront him on live television. He was wrong. Because sitting across the room, one woman had receipts, and she wasn't going to stay silent. Long before the cameras, before the congressional lights and viral moments, Jasmine Crockett's story began in a place where resilience was survival. Raised in a working-class family, she learned early what it meant to fight for dignity, not with power or privilege, but with persistence. Her childhood wasn't marked by endless opportunities. It was shaped by grit, community, and a determination to stand up when life tried to push her down. Before she ever sat in Congress, Jasmine was a lawyer, but not the kind who built a career on flashy corporate deals or political clout. She was a fighter for the people. Her clients were families facing eviction, workers cheated out of wages, immigrants navigating a system stacked against them. She didn't choose easy cases. She chose the ones no one else wanted. Cases where losing meant someone's life could collapse. Her colleagues remember her late nights in cramped offices, stacks of documents piled high, coffee going cold beside her laptop. They remember how she'd highlight, underline, and annotate every page of evidence until her fingertips were stained with ink. While others might prepare for a courtroom by memorizing talking points, Jasmine went deeper. She dug until she understood the case better than anyone else in the room, better than the prosecutors, better than the defense, better than the judge. And that obsession with truth, that relentless preparation, followed her all the way to Washington. When Jasmine won her seat in Congress, many underestimated her. Some dismissed her as too young or too fiery. Others mocked her directness, labeling her too aggressive for the polished, performative world of politics. But Jasmine didn't come to Washington to play games. She came with a mission: to represent the people who sent her there, to speak for those whose voices were too often drowned out, and to hold power accountable, no matter how uncomfortable it made those in the room. Her approach was simple: facts over bluster, substance over spectacle. But make no mistake, she knew how to deliver a moment when it counted. And in the days leading up to this hearing, she prepared like a prize fighter before the biggest bout of her life. Every night, long after the hearing room emptied, she stayed behind closed doors with her team, poring over documents, reviewing transcripts, connecting dots others had missed. She studied every prior statement the witness had made, every contradiction, every subtle shift, every fabrication hiding beneath polished rhetoric. Jasmine didn't just come to ask questions. She came armed with proof. That morning, walking into the chamber, she was calm but focused. Unlike others who seemed eager for a camera moment, Jasmine didn't fidget, didn't seek attention. She sat poised, pen in hand, scanning the witness's opening statement with eyes that missed nothing. To the casual observer, she looked quiet, almost subdued. But behind that calm exterior, a storm was brewing. She wasn't there for political theater. She was there for accountability. She understood that behind the lies being told, there were real consequences. Families misled, voters deceived, policies distorted to serve partisan agendas instead of people's lives. And it wasn't just about policy. For Jasmine, it was personal. She came from communities that had been ignored, dismissed, and talked over for far too long. She had watched her constituents struggle while Washington played games. This wasn't just about dismantling one man's testimony. It was about defending the dignity of everyone watching who had been lied to, belittled, and underestimated. But perhaps her greatest strength wasn't her preparation, it was her composure. Where others lashed out, Jasmine remained steady. Where others grandstanded, she waited. Every measured pause, every sharpened question, every glance at her notes was deliberate. She knew that silence, when used well, was as powerful as any statement. In that hearing room, she was the calm before the storm, underestimated, overlooked, yet carrying the weight of every fact, every contradiction, every receipt that would soon turn the tables completely. And so she waited, letting the MAGA witness speak, letting him layer his lies higher and higher, giving him enough rope to tangle himself beyond rescue. Because Jasmine Crockett wasn't just listening, she was building, and then it began. The witness didn't know it yet, but Jasmine was about to dismantle his entire narrative, piece by piece. The hearing had been tense from the start, but now the temperature was rising. The MAGA witness leaned forward in his chair, his voice growing louder with each word. He jabbed his finger toward the committee members, his tone sharp and defiant. "This entire investigation," he barked, "is nothing but a politically motivated witch hunt. You people are trying to silence me because I refuse to play by your rules." Murmurs rippled across the chamber. Reporters glanced up from their keyboards. Cameras tightened their focus. The witness's frustration was boiling over, and everyone in the room could feel it. But across the table, Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. She sat perfectly still, her pen resting between her fingers, her gaze steady on the man unraveling before her. To anyone watching closely, she wasn't reacting emotionally. She was calculating, waiting, timing her strike. The witness kept going, his volume rising with every sentence. He painted himself as the victim, the target of a coordinated attack, the brave truth-teller standing against the corrupt establishment. His voice cracked as he repeated his claims, each one bolder than the last. But then, Jasmine leaned forward slightly, tapping her pen against her notepad once. "Sir," she said, calm but commanding. Let's pause right there. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to her. The witness froze for half a beat, surprised by the interruption. Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her tone carried weight, the kind of authority that demanded attention without shouting. "You've made several statements this morning," she continued evenly, "but before we move forward, I'd like to make sure we're all working from the same set of facts." The witness smirked, a flash of arrogance returning. "Facts?" he scoffed. "You wouldn't know the truth if it—" "Sir," Jasmine cut in smoothly, her voice like steel wrapped in silk, "I do know the truth, and I have the documents right here." A collective gasp swept the room. Reporters leaned forward. Even a few lawmakers who'd been scrolling through their phones looked up. Jasmine flipped a page in her binder deliberately, letting the sound slice through the silence. "You've testified under oath today that you were never informed of these discrepancies," she said, her tone still measured, still calm. "But according to your own signed statements from last year, you acknowledged receiving this information directly. Can you explain that contradiction?" The witness blinked. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The swagger that carried him into the room just an hour ago was starting to crack. Somewhere in the gallery, someone whispered, "Oh, she's got him." The cameras zoomed in closer. On social media, live tweets exploded. "Jasmine's surgical precision right now? He's done? She came ready." This is the setup before the knockout. The silence stretched for a long moment. The witness shuffled his papers, searching for something, anything, that could save him. Finally, he muttered, "Well, I need to review those documents before I respond." Jasmine didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply nodded, letting the weight of her question and his silence linger in the air. Pause, a deep breath, and then, "Jasmine strikes again?" "Sir, let me be very clear," she said, locking her eyes on him. "This isn't about politics. This isn't about partisanship. This is about the truth. And no amount of shouting, dodging, or finger-pointing is going to change the facts." The witness shifted uncomfortably, tugging at his tie. The chamber was silent, yet it buzzed with tension, like the charged air before a thunderclap. Everyone knew something big was coming. But no one, not even the witness himself, saw the next moment coming. The room felt like it had stopped breathing. Cameras tightened on Jasmine Crockett's face, capturing the calm fire in her eyes. Across from her, the MAGA witness leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, exuding smug defiance, still convinced he was untouchable. That illusion was about to shatter. Jasmine leaned forward, her voice steady, deliberate, and razor-sharp. "With all due respect, sir, that's a lie." The words detonated like a thunderclap. A hush rolled through the hearing room. Even the clicking of camera shutters stalled for half a second, as if the entire nation paused to process what they'd just heard. On Twitter, clips of the moment hit feeds within seconds, captions exploding with #JasmineWins. The witness tried to recover, forcing a smirk. "Congresswoman, I think you're—" "No," Jasmine cut in, her tone like polished steel. "You think wrong, and here's why." She reached for a folder, thick with highlighted documents. Each page represented weeks of preparation, nights spent cross-referencing evidence, dissecting statements, and anticipating every excuse this witness might give. She flipped to the first tab, holding up a photocopied email for the room and the cameras. "This," she began, "is your statement from March 17th, where you claim the Department of Justice fabricated evidence against your organization?" Her words were slow, deliberate, landing like blows. "But on April 5th, you admitted, under oath, that you never actually saw the evidence you accused them of fabricating. Sir, do you understand what perjury is?" A ripple of gasps swept across the crowd seated behind her. The witness cleared his throat, his voice suddenly dry. I didn't say that." Jasmine didn't blink. "Yes, you did. It's right here, page 214, line 13. Do you want me to read it for you?" He faltered, fingers twitching against his tie. I may have been misquoted." Jasmine murmured softly, tilting her head as if studying a specimen under glass. "Funny how every time you're caught, it's someone else's fault. First the Doge, then the media. Now the court stenographer." Her voice remained low, but the scalpel-like precision of her words cut deeper than any raised volume could. The witness shuffled his papers, desperate to regain footing. "This is just another witch hunt by radical Democrats," he barked, louder than before, hoping to turn strength into a shield. Jasmine let him finish. Then, without raising her voice, she struck again. "Sir, this isn't a witch hunt. This is accountability. And the difference between the two is evidence." Boom. The line was instant meme material. Within minutes, TikTok edits layered her words over cinematic beats, captions flashing, "This is accountability" in bold letters. Liberal Twitter roared in celebration. Even typically cautious commentators called it one of the most brutal congressional takedowns in years. But Jasmine wasn't finished. "You came into this room thinking you could spin your narrative," she continued, turning page after page of receipts. "You thought you could paint yourself as the victim. But the real victims are the American people you misled, the veterans you lied to, the communities you exploited, and every single taxpayer who had to fund the mess you created." The witness opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His confidence, once dripping with arrogance, was evaporating under the weight of her relentless precision. Across social media, live reaction threads were on fire. "She's destroying him," one user posted. "He can't recover from this," another wrote. CNN and MSNBC broke into their programming to replay the exchange in real time. Even Fox News anchors, usually quick to defend their side, were visibly shaken. Jasmine leaned in again, closing the final distance between them, her voice just above a whisper. "You lied to Congress, you lied to the American people, and now you're lying to me. That's not politics, that's perjury." The witness inhaled sharply, his jaw locking. Somewhere in the crowd, someone muttered under their breath, "Oh, it's over." And yet, Jasmine wasn't smiling. This wasn't theater for her. This was justice. And she wanted every person watching, in that room and across the nation, to understand exactly what was at stake. She straightened her back, slid the final document across the table, and delivered the blow that would replay in millions of living rooms that night. "You came here thinking you'd control this narrative. But here's the truth. Facts don't bend for politics. You can tweet, you can spin, you can scream. But the receipts don't lie, and neither do I." The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, even scattered applause before the gavel slammed for order. Cameras zoomed in on the witness's face, pale, sweaty, his composure cracking under the weight of Jasmine's precision strikes. By the time she leaned back in her chair, the hearing wasn't just over, it was history. But the shockwaves didn't stop in that room. They tore across the country. The moment Jasmine Crockett's mic drop line landed, the clip ignited like wildfire. Within minutes, social media exploded into chaos, memes were born, hashtags started trending, and millions of Americans were glued to their phones, watching the replay on an endless loop. On Twitter, the hashtag Jasmine wins shot to the #1 trending spot nationwide in less than 20 minutes. Users from both sides of the political spectrum couldn't stop talking about it. Progressives celebrated it as a masterclass in accountability, while MAGA supporters scrambled to defend their witness, claiming Jasmine's takedown was unfair and biased. 1. The social media frenzy. TikTok stitched together Jasmine's iconic line, "With all due respect, sir, that's a lie," into hundreds of reaction videos. Some creators slowed it down for dramatic effect, while others paired it with booming cinematic sound effects, making the moment feel like the final scene of a blockbuster movie. Instagram was no different. Political meme pages flooded feeds with side-by-side screenshots, Jasmine's calm, piercing stare versus the witness's visibly cracking composure. One viral caption read, "This isn't a debate, it's a demolition." Even YouTube Shorts exploded overnight, with one compilation titled Jasmine Crockett vs. MAGA Witness, Full Takedown, crossing 10 million views in under 24 hours. 2. News outlets go all in. By evening, every major news network, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and even BBC World, was replaying the exchange on loop. MSNBC called it the moment Congress found its newest powerhouse. CNN labeled it a historic clash that left a witness cornered and outmaneuvered. Even Fox News, while defending the MAGA witness, admitted Crockett's precision in dismantling the claims was hard to ignore. Commentators described it as one of the most brutal congressional takedowns in recent memory, comparing Jasmine's composure to a surgeon making clean, precise cuts, no wasted words, no wild theatrics, just pure, calculated destruction. 3. The public reacts. Everyday Americans couldn't get enough. Coffee shops, college campuses, and office break rooms buzzed with conversations about the showdown. People who had never tuned into congressional hearings before suddenly found themselves rewinding Jasmine's cross-examination, just to watch her control the narrative like a seasoned trial lawyer. One viral Reddit thread titled, "Queen Jasmine Just Made History," had over 50,000 upvotes in less than 12 hours. One top comment summed up the national mood. She came prepared. She came fearless, and she came for blood. For many, it wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about accountability. In an era of endless partisan shouting matches, Jasmine had delivered something rare: facts, precision, and dignity. 4. The MAGA damage control machine. Meanwhile, MAGA supporters went into full spin mode. The witness's allies rushed onto right-wing media to paint him as a victim of political bullying. Conservative influencers flooded X with talking points, claiming Jasmine had overstepped, disrespected the process, and attacked an innocent man. But there was one problem: the receipts didn't lie. Clips of Jasmine's factual breakdowns circulated faster than MAGA narratives could catch up. The harder they tried to discredit her, the more viral the original video became. Even some Republican strategists privately admitted on Background to Politico, "We underestimated her. That won't happen again." 5. Late-night hosts have a field day. By the next night, the country was laughing along with late-night comedians. On The Daily Show, the host quipped, "Somewhere, a MAGA witness is still Googling how to recover from being annihilated on live TV." Jimmy Kimmel joked, "If Jasmine Crockett had been in the Avengers, Thanos would have quit halfway through the movie." Even Stephen Colbert chimed in, "That wasn't a takedown. That was a TED Talk on how to end a man's career in 30 seconds. Clips of these comedic bits added another layer of virality, pulling in audiences who normally ignored political drama entirely. 6. The numbers behind the moment. By the end of the week, the original C-SPAN clip had over 72 million combined views across all platforms. Jasmine gained over 450,000 new followers on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok combined. Donations to her political campaign skyrocketed, crossing 7 figures in just 3 days. Polling data suggested a 5% bump in favorability ratings for Jasmine among independent voters nationwide. This wasn't just a viral moment, it was a cultural moment. Jasmine Crockett went from a rising name in politics to a national figure overnight. 7. Setting the stage for the twist. But while progressives celebrated and MAGA scrambled, something unexpected was brewing behind closed doors. Rumors began circulating that the witness's legal team had requested a private session with congressional investigators. Anonymous insiders whispered about new evidence, sealed documents, and a potential follow-up hearing that could flip the entire narrative upside down. And then, one late-night headline sent the internet into another frenzy. Breaking: MAGA witness under federal investigation following Crockett hearing. The hearing ended, the cameras powered down, and the Capitol returned to its usual hum of bureaucracy. Yet the impact of Jasmine Crockett's words didn't fade. Across the nation, people replayed the moment in their minds, not just for the drama, not just for the viral clip, but because it represented something far bigger, the triumph of dignity over deceit. Jasmine's victory wasn't just about dismantling one man's lies. It was about reaffirming a fundamental principle: truth matters. In a world saturated with misinformation and spectacle, she reminded Americans that accountability isn't a partisan issue. It's a moral one. The audience at home, the viewers online, the students, the parents, the workers, the immigrants, all of them saw a reflection of their own frustrations and aspirations. Here was someone who refused to let arrogance and falsehood dominate, and she did it with composure, clarity, and courage. She leaned into that power, framing her win as a larger lesson. This isn't about politics, she said later in interviews. It's about standing up for what is right. It's about holding people accountable, no matter how powerful they are, no matter how confident they think they can mislead us. That's what dignity looks like. That's what justice looks like. Her words resonated because they tapped into a universal truth. Every person has the ability to confront dishonesty, to challenge corruption, to insist that facts hold weight in a world where lies can travel faster than the truth. Jasmine had shown that one prepared, committed individual could cut through chaos and stand firm, a lesson that empowered millions who watched the hearing unfold. Social media posts didn't just celebrate her takedown. They transformed into mantras of personal courage. If Jasmine can stand her ground in Congress, we can demand the same honesty from everyone in our lives. If she can challenge power and win, I can speak up in my community. The narrative became a call to action, a reminder that integrity is contagious. Commentators reflected on the cultural significance, noting how rare it is to see a politician wield authority without resorting to theatrics. How extraordinary it is to hold someone accountable while remaining composed, principled, and humane. Late-night hosts highlighted it, viral creators celebrated it, and every day Americans shared it with a newfound sense of hope, that standing for truth could still make a difference. Beyond the politics, Jasmine's story was a testament to preparation, resilience, and courage. She didn't just read talking points. She studied every detail, anticipated every move, and held steadfast to her values. It was a quiet reminder that moral strength is built over time, with effort, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to justice. And perhaps most importantly, her triumph reminded the nation that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it sits calmly at a table, listening, analyzing, and waiting for the right moment to strike. That measured strength, backed by evidence and ethics, has the power to dismantle arrogance and rewrite narratives. For viewers, the takeaway was clear. Each of us can demand honesty. Each of us can hold power accountable, and each of us can embody the values we want to see in the world. Jasmine Crockett had turned the congressional hearing into a lesson in courage, a masterclass in dignity, and a blueprint for standing tall in the face of falsehood. But if you think this is the end of Jasmine's fight, think again. Jasmine Crockett's moment in that congressional hearing will be remembered for years to come. The clip that tore across social media wasn't just a viral sensation, it was a historic takedown, a testament to preparation, courage, and unshakable integrity. Every pause, every question, every fact she laid out reminded the nation why accountability still matters, why truth still matters, and why one person standing for what's right can spark a movement. This wasn't just about the MAGA witness or a single hearing. It was about all of us. It was about the families watching from their living rooms, the students seeing that courage matters, the communities who have been silenced for too long. Jasmine showed that facts over fiction, dignity over arrogance, and justice over deceit are principles worth defending every single day. And now, it's our turn to carry that torch. If you were inspired by this showdown, don't let it end here. Subscribe to our channel for more explosive takedowns, breaking down moments that shape our democracy and challenge power where it counts. Share this video with friends, family, and anyone who believes in truth so the lesson reaches even further. And join our community, a place where we celebrate courage, hold the powerful accountable, and stand together for facts over fiction. Because Jasmine's victory wasn't just hers. It belongs to every person who refuses to be misled, every voice demanding honesty, and every citizen who believes that integrity can still change the game. Remember this moment, remember the power of truth. And remember, this wasn't just about one lie, it was about all of us.